Hello, thank you for viewing our presentation on post-COVID perceptions of online learning among South Korean STEM students. My name is Jeff Baldwin, and I work at Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology. And with me today is Natasha Powell, who works at Pohang Institute of Science and Technology, as well as Jennifer Manning, who's currently completing her PhD at Victoria University of Wellington. While South Korea is famously technologically developed, until COVID-19, the amount of online education failed to meet the level common in other developed countries. A study published in the Korea Times that involved 558 students showed that students indicated 78% had difficulties with online courses. 25% felt that the number of assignments increased while taking online courses. And 13% found that the quality of education was insufficient when compared to offline courses. During the outbreak of COVID in Korea, many schools went to emergency remote teaching or a fast switch to online classes due to unforeseen circumstances. However, after the situation improved, the government did allow for individual universities to determine their own teaching style, with many returning to full offline courses. However, some universities have continued to observe online or hybrid course options. The initial motivation for our study was to better inform our ongoing instructional design among our university classes and try to determine how to best serve our students in real time. We're also curious about how students perceived core courses, or the courses that they need to complete for their major, versus English courses, as the two universities where students were tested included STEM students who might be more accustomed to working online. However, all students tested needed to complete a minimum of 2 required English language courses for graduation. We also looked at whether graduate students felt different about online courses than undergraduate students, whether previous exposure to English courses impacts students' overall perception, and how prior satisfaction in English courses impacted students' willingness to take further online classes. To this end, our research questions were as followed. Does subject, academic level, and prior exposure impact STEM students' perceptions of English language learning environments? What online instructional delivery methods for English language education are preferred by STEM students? Does prior enjoyment of English courses influence preferred instructional delivery modes? And what perceived advantages in accessibility and course quality does general online education offer STEM students?
Great, so I'm going to talk to you guys about the methods that we used for our study. So around March 2022, we had participants from 2 Korean STEM universities to total 329 full-time students. 201 were graduate and 128 were undergraduate. At both universities, all students take their courses in the same format where they have twice weekly 90-minute classes. So we were sure that there would be a standard structure of delivery for those courses. The particular tool that we used was a questionnaire that had 27 items, 5-point Likert agreement style questions, some multiple choice questions, and some paired comparison questions. And then we asked students about their perceptions of their English courses versus their core courses, their preferences for delivery of online instruction or courses, and then also we asked them to evaluate the accessibility and quality of the online courses that they had taken. Once we received the answers from the students, we either used McNemar's exact test or Pearson's chi-squared test to make some comparisons on the students' answers. So first, let me take you through some of the results that we got for our first research question. Just a reminder, our first research question covered the students' perceptions of the effectiveness of their courses, be they online or offline, and then also their preferences in mode of courses, again, offline or online. And then looking at these answers, we tried to see if there were any differences between their academic level and also their prior experiences with online and offline courses. So first, to sort of set the standard, we asked our students about the effectiveness of their core courses and English courses in the standard traditional offline in-person format. Based upon the results from the McNemar's exact test, we found that there was no significant difference in students' perceived effectiveness for offline English courses and core courses, although English courses did have slightly higher neutral responses. Subsequently, we asked students about the effectiveness of the online courses. And also with this, the McNemar's exact test found that there weren't any statistically significant differences for their perceived effectiveness for online formats. Um, Subsequently, once that was done, we asked the students about their preferences, comparing their preferences for online core courses versus online English courses. And for the results from the McNemar's exact test, we found that the students' preferences were fairly similar, actually, whether the courses were core or English online courses. Then subsequently, we asked them about their preferences for the traditional offline courses. And for this result, the McNemar's exact test confirmed a significant difference. So then, specifically for their major courses, their academic courses, the core courses, students were found to more strongly prefer to take those courses in person in comparison to their English courses. Then, subsequently after that, we wanted to see what the students' preferences were and if they were different based upon their academic level. And so if we divide them into groups of graduate and undergraduate students, from the Pearson chi-square test that we took, we found actually that this difference in academic level did not have a significant influence on their preference of offline English courses. Taking that and then comparing that for online courses, we found that the Pearson's chi-squared test also found not a large influence of academic level for online English courses either. Then subsequently after that, what we decided to do was to ask the students about their preferences for online English courses, but take into account what experience they already had with online courses in English, right? So dividing the students out into those groups, we found that there was a statistically significant association actually with prior experience in certain course types, and that would affect whether or not they preferred to take their English courses online. So to be more specific, basically, if students only had experience in offline English courses, they were more likely to disagree with the statement that they prefer taking their English courses online, and also less likely to disagree with the preference of taking English courses Sorry, my apologies, less likely to agree with the preference of taking English courses online. So we could see from this that students who did have prior experience with online English courses would be more likely to prefer taking their English courses online. However, as just described before, students that don't have prior online English course experience are less likely to respond saying that they prefer to take online English courses. Then finally, we check students' perceived effectiveness of English online courses, right? So the Pearson's chi-square test found that there was no significantly statistic association based on the increased effectiveness of English online courses based on their prior exposure to them. However, there was an exception. Students who had experience in both offline and online English courses were more likely to perceive the online English courses to be more effective when compared to groups who only had one or the other experience.
So for research question 2, we examine students' preferences of their delivery mode formats and also if prior enjoyment of English classes had any influence on those preferences. We examined 6 total delivery mode formats. We had 4 online options, 2 synchronous and 2 asynchronous. The synchronous options were fully live, which is usually through Zoom, and hybrid online, in which one session is live, probably through Zoom, and one session is asynchronous. The asynchronous options were the typical MOOC style class where everything is self-directed and an instructor is available but not necessarily active, and also asynchronous with occasional live meetings. So it's when the class is primarily self-directed, but there might be a few live sessions every now and then. The 2 offline options consisted of the traditional fully offline in-person method and then the hybrid offline method in which one session may be in person and then one session is done asynchronously. When students were given the option of only online delivery modes, we can see that a majority of students did prefer fully live options, 41.3%. When we combine synchronous and asynchronous options, we found that 66.5% chose some form of synchronous formats and 33.4% chose some form of asynchronous. So fully live was most preferred and synchronous modes were preferred over asynchronous modes. We then asked students their preferences for future English courses with the inclusion of offline formats. And we can see that 42.2% did choose fully offline while the online options were available. A high proportion of students prefer fully offline learning. But we decided to categorize the options into offline options and online options. And so the offline options are the fully offline and hybrid, in which 50.7% of students did prefer those methods. And online modes actually had 49.2% of students that chose some form of online education. So when comparing all online formats and all offline formats, students' preferences for future English courses were actually almost equal. Comparing the before and after of when students only had online options to when they had the inclusion of offline options, we can see fully live options had the greatest decrease of 22.2%, and asynchronous options had a decrease of 26%. We also examined preferences based on students' reported enjoyment of prior English courses. So here on the left A, we have participants who enjoyed English courses and their preferred formats. And here on the right in B, we have participants who said that they did not enjoy their prior English courses. Students who enjoyed prior English courses much preferred fully live options, 50.8 out of all online options, in comparison to 29.5 of students who reportedly did not enjoy their prior English courses. And we can see they're somewhat equally divided among all the online formats. When we combined these categories and compared their enjoyment, we found that students that enjoyed English classes much preferred fully live, and that students who did not enjoy prior English classes, about 50% of them did prefer asynchronous formats. For research question number 3, we examined advantages of general online education, student-centered, and also environment-centered. We found that students identified a few advantages for general online education, which included their schedules improving, comfort in communicating with peers, and also ease in expressing themselves in writing in online courses. With the statement, I have more opportunities to contact my peers and they could choose online or offline courses. We found that 68.1% did say that offline environments allowed more opportunities for peer interaction. So while 46.8% had said that they felt more comfortable communicating with peers in online courses, 68.1% said that there were more opportunities to contact peers in offline courses. So offline environments may be less intimidating, but offline environments still provide more opportunities. Environment-centered advantages included that students did feel, or at least 49% of students felt instructors were able to meet students' needs, that a large portion felt lectures were easier to review. Course materials and assignments were seen to be as vigorous as their offline courses. Online courses were considered well organized, and also 51% had viewed them as student-friendly.
Okay, let's review some of the key insights that we found, starting with our first research question. The distinction between core courses and English courses did not have any perceivable impact on students' perception of the learning environments. We found that STEM students found no significant difference in the effectiveness between online and offline courses. For online courses, there was no discernible difference in preferences between core courses and English courses. However, STEM students did strongly prefer taking core courses offline when compared to English courses, which might be due to these being more lecture-based and less interactive. When testing for academic level, we found that there was no distinction between graduate and undergraduate students when looking at their preferences for online versus offline courses. We also tested for the impact of prior exposure. We found that prior exposure did impact student preferences. However, this didn't actually have an impact on students' perceptions of courses' overall effectiveness. So prior exposure to online English courses positively correlated with preferences for online English courses, whereas students who had no experience with online courses indicated that they were less likely to prefer online courses. There's one outlying group, students who had experience with both online and offline courses did indicate that there were more likely to perceive online English courses as being more effective. When looking at the different modes for online courses, when only looking at online options, live meetings were strongly preferred. When given options for online and offline courses were consistently more preferred. When we asked about students' prior enjoyment with English courses, that had a direct impact on their preferences. Where students who had enjoyed previous courses wanted to have fully live options, and students who did not enjoy their prior English courses were indicated a preference for asynchronous options. And in terms of advantages for online courses, students indicated that there were improvements in their overall schedule, their self-expression in writing, and their comfort level communicating with their peers. Further, students indicated that lessons were easy to review, well organized. They found assignments and course materials to be as vigorous as offline courses. They felt that instructors were able to meet student needs and that the courses were somewhat student friendly. While our overall findings revealed a strong preference for live offline English education, it should be noticed that there was a significant number of students who did indicate that they were open to taking online courses in the future. Thank you again for viewing our presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact either of us at the emails provided. If you are curious about where we found our sources, our references are listed here. And thank you very much for attending.